Hello humans, welcome to my first speed build in The Sims 4. Today I'm going to be building a really small apartment that's going to be shared by 4 students. It's made to be sort of like a really compact living space that like the students are using for cheap housing. Unfortunately, I did not get the layout correct on the first try, so I had to restart as you saw at the beginning. However, I did try to keep the original layout of the of the apartment as much as I could, although I did have to change it a little bit and it ended up being a lot worse than I actually hoped for, so I'll probably end up remaking this one with a slightly better layout, but for what it is right now, it's not all that bad, I'll be honest, mainly because it's like the layout started off as like a really weird set of just 4 bunk beds with desks underneath them, and then I sort of rearranged a few of the beds to make it look a little bit more feasible, more lively, because it just felt, especially that one, this room that you see on the right at the moment, I for some reason thought originally it would be best to put the bed right up against the windows, which I then changed my mind on because it's better to have like a nice seating area in front of the window. You'll see in a few moments, but yeah, so there's not much to it. It's really just a really simple build with 4 different bunk beds with desks underneath them. I thought that was the best way to save space, because if I tried to put just beds on the floor, then the entire apartment wouldn't have enough space for everything. It would just end up being a little bit too cramped. I'd have to like either not have a living room whatsoever and then just be kitchen and 4 bedrooms or something like that, and I wasn't really keen on doing that. I did originally try to do that layout, but trying to fit 4 beds and desks together, it's just really difficult, so I have to go with the bunk bed layout. And now right now you'll see I'm trying to put some sort of decorative stuff around the place just so it looks a bit nice. I was going to put a sort of like a bookworm type of person in this room, but then I thought, because this room has a little bit more of a window, I thought that room would be a bit better for the more lively of the 4 roommates. So I ended up moving the bookworm to the second room, which is the darker room, and that room's actually going to be housed by a computer tech nerd and a bookworm, whereas the room that you see on the right there, the one with the big window, that's going to be occupied by, I believe, if I remember, a musician that I've made and someone who's really into art, if I remember correctly. I don't know, it's been a little while since I've made those Sims, but yeah. Basically, so the basic layout of both the rooms is fairly similar, at least starting off at the moment it is, because there's just a single wardrobe in each room and a little bin next to it. I tried to put 4 bins throughout the entire place, but I feel like that gets a little bit too cramped, especially for this apartment here. I did end up putting it there, but I'm not too happy about it, considering it will limit the amount of space I can have in the corner. As you can see, I'm trying to place a nice table there because I thought it would be like a nice relaxing area where the 2 roommates can chill together. But then I ended up scrapping the idea for 2 main reasons. One, they both have their own desks already, so that isn't really needed. And the second is that the little table, like the little relaxation table, if you will, that table's chairs actually come a little bit too close to the desk chair. I thought the Sims wouldn't be able to interact with it properly, so I just decided that I'd swap out that table for just a single seating arrangement. At first I went with those pillows, but then I thought, if this is going to be a little bit more of a comfortable looking place just to like sit in front of the window, then it wouldn't really make sense to have just pillows there, so I ended up going with that really cheap looking chair. That's the other thing about this apartment, is that I'm trying to make things as purposefully as cheap as possible, because I imagine if these 4 students are sharing an apartment together, they're trying not to spend too much money, mainly probably because of their studies and stuff like that. I imagine that most of them aren't really employed or like don't have too much work. That's the way I imagine anyways, because they're living in the city, so that's the best arrangement that they could find together. And yeah, Here we go, that's me putting in the bookshelf for this room. It does feel a little bit more cramped than I'd like, but at least it's alright, so I don't mind having it there. I'm placing another bookshelf right next to the bookworm's bed, just because there's the space there and it's better in my opinion than trying to put some sort of poster or something there. And there we go. Now I'm putting the desk lamps on each one of those tables just so it feels a little bit more cozy, a little bit nice. Mainly because I'd imagine the ceiling lamp wouldn't be enough lighting for this for their desks, because most of the light I imagine would be blocked up by the beds above. So yeah, I decided to go with the slightly larger lights in the living room and kitchen area, mainly because it just looks a bit more well made, especially because it's supposed to be a cheap city apartment. I think it just makes sense that they'd go with the what looks like cheaper lights, because I'd imagine that these are like really old lights that they've just had and not bothered renovating, whereas the other smaller lamps are probably a bit newer. Even though in the Sims it doesn't really make a difference, they're pretty much just the same thing but different sizes. Anyways, here originally my plan was that I'd have a 3-seater sofa there and a TV in front of it, but then I decided to go with a slightly awkward layout. It's not as good as the original layout, but I thought that if it is going to be 4 roommates together, I might as well have at least 4 seating, like a seating arrangement for 4 people at least. It does make the TV a little bit more awkward than I'd like. Like you'll see, I'm trying to place a really slim accent table and then the TV on top of it, but for some reason it doesn't really go too well, because if I use slightly bigger accent tables, then it kind of looks a bit too cramped, it doesn't feel comfortable. And that thin one there on the Sims, I've noticed for some reason you can't really tilt TVs. So originally my plan was that I'd just have the accent table there and then tilt the TV as much as I could, but now I'd have to either tilt the accent table like that, which doesn't really feel good. It feels absolutely horrible to do it that way. So then I ended up going for this round table, which I can then just rotate to be facing in the correct direction, so that at least all 4 of the people sitting there can have some angle for the TV. I know it doesn't look the best, but it's honestly the best I could think of, the best I could do in this really cramped situation. Whenever I redo this apartment, I'll probably make the living room slightly bigger and then try to like rearrange the room so there's less space wasted as the corridors. This is a good thing that I tried. I didn't do it intentionally. I just found that little table there with storage, and I thought that that would be a nice addition, considering it is right next to the toilet. So, well, the toilet is technically right next to the bathroom, but anyways, it made sense, because it's like you can have a nice table between the 2 couches to have stuff there, but it's also acts as a bit of extra storage for them to keep like their commonly used items, maybe stuff that they can't quite fit in the really small bathroom there. And yeah, it ended up working out pretty alright. I put a music system on it, at least so it looks nice and it feels a bit more functional instead of just having it completely empty there. Plus, I imagine that since there is a musician in the house, at the very least he will be blasting music all the time. It is students, so there's a really good chance that they are going to be having a lot of fun and like playing music loudly all the time. And here I was just trying to make the apartment look a little bit more weathered, but I noticed that cobwebs are almost completely invisible in the white wall. I tried to go for a slightly different colored wall, but it just didn't feel really nice, because I feel like it takes away from the aesthetic of it being a really cheap apartment. Plus the other colors didn't really match the style of the apartment, because the entire apartment is supposed to look like a mess, or like as messy as it can be, because I feel like if it was like a colored wall, then it would feel like a specific aesthetic, whereas it's a little bit more easy, at least I find it a little bit more easier to make the apartment look more messy when it's completely neutral colors like we have here. Plus, I imagine that whoever made this apartment, it's like just a really old apartment and it's gone, like it's just really weathered at this point, so whoever made it wasn't really bothered to per se create specific walls. I imagine this was like one of the first apartment buildings in the city, and then it's not been renovated ever, so it still has the really old cheap style to it from way back whenever it was built. And here we go. Here I'm just adding a bit of tear patches to make the place look a little bit more withered. I feel like I do go a little bit more overboard because I feel like some of these damaged patches don't really make sense. I mean, this apartment isn't supposed to be all that good or like clean looking anyways, because if you look at the original description of the apartment, it is an apartment that needs regular maintenance. So it just goes with the original aesthetic of the apartment anyways to have as much damage as you can. And again, I was trying not to go overboard, but I think I did go a little bit overboard with the originally I was looking for a few decorations to put around the living room, probably put one on the wall that is right next to the TV, but I didn't really find anything that really made sense. Plus I thought that they're students, so they probably wouldn't bother having like spending money on like a big artwork. Yeah, there we go. Here I'm moving on to the only kind of decorative things that I imagine them having. It's just random posters and stuff that they have. This is a little interesting thing that I did. This is supposed to be the desk of the sort of tech nerd or gamer per student, so I put a bit of like logic stuff there. I feel like those are the kind of posters that someone would have if they're a programmer, because I imagine that the one on the corner, that one I imagine is some sort of algorithm chart or something like that for like some project that he's working on. So yeah, I imagine that's just some random stuff that he's using. There we go. I moved this, and that's the bookworm's bed. So I put a bunch of posters that sort of look like book and or movie posters, like promo posters that he's just collected over the years. So yeah, there you go. I rearranged the living room lights a little bit to make it so that the corridors aren't as dark as before, and all the light is spread out across all the walls. Because previously, because the lights were right along where a wall would have been between the toilet and the corner bedroom, it felt there was like a really harsh shadow in there, so I moved around the lights, so hopefully it looks a little bit better now. Here I'm trying to put furnishings in the kitchen. Right now I originally was going for that little cabinet there that you see, the tall cabinet, but then I didn't go for it thinking that it just feels like it takes up a little bit too much space in my opinion. So instead I just replaced it with more counter space and then put the fridge in its place. I did try to figure out if I could use the weathered fridge, but it looked a little bit too broken. I imagine that like whoever's leasing this apartment, I feel like they'd at least spend a bit of money trying to get clean and usable appliances, because that fridge just did not look like something that they would like it would be legally allowed to give someone when you're renting a house for them. I tried to put an extra counter there right next to the electrical box, but it just doesn't fit, unfortunately. So I am kind of stuck with a little L-shaped kitchen there. Here I'm trying to put a nice sort of dining table-ish in front of the window, because like the window's there and there's nothing in front of it except the toilet. So I thought that at least if there was a bit of dining space there, it would look nice. I tried to put a second one there, but it just didn't make sense to have two little dining-ish tables there. Plus, I mentioned that the students are probably not going to be cooking all that much anyways. Most of the time, they'll just be like eating out or ordering takeout and just eating it in their rooms. I can't imagine them having like to go through the effort of sitting together or even having the time to do something like that. Right now I'm just looking for random bits of clutter that I can put throughout the kitchen. It does feel a little bit more nice to have a bit of clutter around the place, especially because it makes the place feel nice and lived in. Originally I was going to try to have as little clutter in the kitchen as possible, but it just doesn't feel like that would fit really nicely. Plus I feel like they are like students, so they'd use the kitchen at least a little bit. I can't imagine them just not using kitchen at all. So yeah, just putting random bits of stuff there, like spatulas, plates, sauces, stuff like that. And then here I'm trying to fit a nice bit of pot and utensil stack inside the sink, just so it makes it look a little bit more used and filled up, because it does make sense. They probably have a bunch of clutter and no one's bothered wasting those dishes. And yeah, I said wasting, I meant washing. Sorry. Yeah. So there we go. I'm just rearranging the clutter that I finally put or decided that this is all the clutter that I'm going to go for. I don't think there's any need to have more than this clutter because I don't imagine they'd have all that much stuff anyway. So yeah, that should be the kitchen done. And now if I'm moving on to the bathroom. The bathroom is in my opinion, the least favorite of the rooms that I've made, especially because of how absolutely cramped it is. Just because in the bathroom I had to go for the shower, as you can see in the corner, the sink in the middle, and a pair of washing machine and dryer on the right. It's like stupidly cramped. I feel like there was no real way for me to have too much stuff there because I don't imagine that there's any way that I can rearrange this so that it feels all that much better. I mean, I could have tried to put the shower right next to the door and then put the sink in the corner or vice versa, and then so that there was a little bit more space, but that just didn't feel right considering that either I'd have to put the sink right in front of the door or the shower. Either which way, I don't think it would be comfortable for someone to be using those while standing right in front of the door. Although even in this position there isn't really all that much difference really. The only real difference in this situation is that if someone was to open the door, they're probably not going to hit whoever's using the sink, and they won't smash into the shower doors either. So yeah, there you go. Put up a towel stack, a towel rack right in front of the shower. Again, it does make the space feel a lot more cramped than it is because that leaves a little bit less headway for whoever's using it there. By the way, I'll just, before anyone asks, I'm going to tell you, I haven't play tested this apartment at all. So if there is any kind of rearrangements that need to be made, I have no idea. I can't guarantee that Sims will be able to reach every single corner of the house, because I just feel like it's not really nice, at least it's not my style, to really go for houses in a way that the Sims can use it. I much rather prefer making houses in the Sims that feel more realistic, like someone in real life could easily live there, whereas a Sim probably would feel a bit cramped and not be able to access a lot of these appliances throughout the house. Especially the only real candidate for this is sort of the shower might be a bit blocked because of the towel rack up there, and the washing machine because of this just random clutter stand there. There we go, that's the mirror that goes in front of the bathroom, and yeah, it's pretty much the apartment done. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video as we wrap up by making the toilets, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Enjoy.